Thank you very much for still being there with us. Dr. Muaza Magaji is our guest starting off our conversation this Monday morning. Dr. Magaji, thank you so much for joining us. How is Kano today?
Thank you very much. Kano is, the weather is getting better. We had some rain, so thank God.
Wonderful. All right, Dr. Magaji, let's begin with the Asaba meeting of the Southern governors, which took decisions on very critical issues of national importance. The Southern governors have banned open grazing. What do you make of this position?
I will say thank God and welcome on board because there has been controversy on how this industry will transform. And we have had from the federal government the policy of Ruga, which was basically a grazing reserve policy. And federal government set aside funds under the vice president's office in conjunction with the governors to assist any governor that want to set up the infrastructure that will basically provide support for this industry. We want to clearly have to understand that this is an industry that provides the needs of Nigerians. And therefore, it is important that we look at how agricultural industries around the world that are strategic to the citizens' life are supported or subsidized. And in this case, we have two challenges. Organizing the industry in a fashion that it will eliminate the risk and all the conflict that resulted in the open grazing. And secondly, supporting the industry that will formalize it in such a way that its economic impact will be obvious, its multiplier effect on the economy will increase, and then, of course, the participants will become active players in the economy of the country. So I think the Southern governors have come together. They have passed this resolution, and I've also heard from you now that the state assemblies of the southern states have also ratified and agreed. They have not ratified it, but come together and agreed on the position of their southern governors. In Kano here, we've been ahead of the game, and I'm glad you mentioned it in your program, that the Kano State Governor, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, has actually been ahead of the curve. The very first time the federal government introduced the Ruga initiative, a Fulani man himself, who have reared cows, who have gone around, who know and understand the dynamics of the industry and the culture, and has accepted quickly that the time has come for this culture to change. That grazing is all about feeding animals. It's not about just the culture of roaming around. And in today's world, feeding animals have changed dramatically. Myself, I have also domesticated animals. I mean, cows. I've even gone to the extent of crossbreeding and fattening with other species. And it's bringing huge economic gain. And so this practice, as an economic venture, can best be enhanced with banning the open grazing and ranching the animals. But what is important here is simple. That culture of people that are part of the country and our citizens that are creating tensions and clashes need to be managed in a strategic way. Because what we're doing now is tactical approach. Basically, we don't want it. If we don't want it, what do the other people do? You have asked the very pertinent question. Where are the infrastructure that will help these people? First, to understand that their economic well-being and their social well-being will be better off when they are reached. And in fact, long time ago, there was a program that was introduced by Professor Jibril Aminu, which is basically an educational system for the Fulanis. That is basically nomadic education. And so you have to combine as citizens. First, honestly, we have to audit and see what this industry contributes. I like that. The entry point of the industry is not in the ranching or in the grazing. It's usually in our stomach. We only benefit from the social and the food security impact. But there is a lot of economy in the value chain of cow agricultural and livestock activities. I'm a player. My governor is an active player, and he has provided a lot of enablers. There are dedicated ranch today in Tansosha, in Kiru local government, in one of our very dreaded forests that bandits used to actually terrorize people. We have now basically converted it to two things. One, military base, and the other one is a cattle ranch. So now it's a very peaceful place, and the economy and security has been provided. So we have a model in Kano that I think Dr. Umar Ganduji should actually project in the governors forum. Now that the southern governors have taken this position, and many northern governors, Kano, Bauchi, Taraba, Benue, have all taken the same position. I want the Northern Governors Forum, led by His Excellency Lalong, to come together also and look at this proposal, side by side the President's order, the Ruga project, the Southern Governors Forum. The whole objective is to have a peaceful Nigeria and with an economy that is robust and an industry that is progressively growing and modernizing. I think this is the way. The good thing about it is we are not fighting, we are talking in a civil way and a constitutional manner.
All right, Dr. Magaji, why do you think there's so much resistance to the proposals and the demands made by the southern governors, which has been endorsed by the state legislatures in the south as well? Because, I mean, like you said, the governor of Kano State was a step ahead. He made the pronouncement a couple of months ago when he said, look, open grazing is not sustainable anymore and it should stop. But it didn't generate the kind of pushback we are seeing now by a collective decision taken by the southern governors. Why is that the case in your opinion?
You see, there are underlying reasons why this polity is shaking. And the circumstance and situation that resulted in that resolution did not emanate from an economic perspective or an analytic perspective of promoting the industry. It came as a reaction to the security situation. And then shortly after that resolution, the other resolution followed, which is restructuring. So the belly of that resolution is hinged on some form of pushback. And therefore, people read meanings, combining restructuring and open grazing ban kind of send mixed signals in the two resolutions. My take is simple, that both resolutions are important on their own account, and we need to look at them independently and basically treat them independently. However, it is important that restructuring agenda be also tabled at the very highest organ of the national body. The same thing, because this grazing issue is also a national issue that threatens peace and security of the country, need to be tabled. The problem is intent. Intent, I've always said this. Every time people read intention in any document or any action of executives, they speculate. And when the speculations becomes a perception, they translate to reality and reactions. My take here is simple, that there's been a lot of pain in the way the clashes have been happening in various communities, not only in the south, even in the north. Farmers, herders clash has been with us for a very long time. And the problem is the south perceive these people as migrants coming to their community and basically creating this tension that leads to loss of lives. And this is also a natural dynamics of nature. Resources are fought over, and migrants and settlers tension. So government has to step in now. And I'm glad to say that both on restructuring and grazing, people are taking constitutional mechanism of resolution. And this is a golden opportunity for the government, because Mr. President has passed Executive Order 10 long ago and have made provisions for Ruga. What we need is adjustment and consensus. The governors of southern Nigeria has come with a position. Governors of northern Nigeria have come with a position. The state assemblies are back to their governors. The National Assembly are now talking about how to restructure by giving autonomy to local governments, judiciary, and the state assemblies first. They are also coming with their constitutional review based on the committee they set up. This is all happening at the highest level of government and society, And therefore, the president now have a golden opportunity to cap these initiatives. Even private citizens are offering money to support the exercise that can bring well-meaning Nigerians together to sit down and discuss this country. I think it is time and it's a golden opportunity for us so that we can sit down and just adjust this federation so that we can make it workable.
All right, Dr. Magaji, definitely we'll talk more about restructuring in the course of this conversation. But, you know, despite pockets of opposing views to this decision by the southern governors, the Mieti Cattle Breeders Association has seemed to have concurred with the position of the southern governors on the ban on open cattle grazing in the southern parts of the country. In fact, they want a situation where the northern governors will activate, you know, the various grazing reserves in the north, you know, for this business. Do you think that's the way to go?
I'm also very glad to say that the operators of the industry, who have been very difficult partners in the discussion, have come to the table. Look, Mieti Allah's major interest is safeguarding their cattle and their economic life and their culture, their social life. However, because time is changing, cultures must change. Domesticating animals is not stopping cattle rearing. They have come to understand that as an economic venture, they will be better off if they embrace this idea of ranching. And in fact, the Mieti Allah have now started structured engagement with the cattle owners. The truth of the matter is, there are very few of this planet that own these massive herds of cattle. This cattle is an investment made by many, many elites in this country. The Fulani, as cultural people, just enjoy roaming around and looking after cattle, and they take commission on this transaction. So they will even be better off because they have the skills that can manage this business. So now they become the business managers of this ranching because they know, they understand feeding, they understand rearing cows, they understand the behavior of the cows. I am telling you, this is a golden moment for us. Mieti Allah is on board, southern governors on board, southern state assemblies on board, prominent northern governors are on board. I think it's very easy to get the rest of the governors on board. Federal government have an idea of how this should be done. We all need to come together and basically flesh out the meat of this idea and how it can operate in a peaceful manner. But you also mentioned something in your program, which is the economy of the industry. How do we formalize it? How do we plug it into the GDP of the country? How do we capture employment? How do we capture, you know, the wealth it creates? This is also part of the reform. I think that must be put in perspective as well.
Dr. Magaji, you mentioned all the key stakeholders that need to come on board, but you also made a valid point that when you said that most of these cattle are not owned by the Fulani boys who are carrying them from one point to the other. They're owned by big men and big women in the country, in the society. Are these big persons, these elites, also on board on what should be the new norm in rearing cattle in the country?
Well, I think it's a cost-benefit analysis. I have friends that own cows. I told you I have cows myself, but I have domesticated them, I've ranched them. In fact, I am role modeling the modernization of the industry so that people will understand it. But I have friends who have thousands of cows in the hands of Fulani, and the sharing formula is like 75-25. It's an economic factor. The problem is people are making a hell lot of money without spending money to feed their cows. And I think the economy must be structured. It's an input and output thing. When you buy cows and just give to Fulani and they are just rearing them and raising them everywhere, they just grow. You don't even see these cows until many, many months after, or until the time for harvest. And then they will say, okay, take 200 and send it to market. This is opportunistic business. For me, it's even exploitative because the amount of effort the Fulanis are putting, and the fact that you only buy cows and you just get a grown-up cow that is costing like 10 times more. Please, we have to have a business model around this. Ranching means that the infrastructure will be built, people will get jobs, the feeding will be actually produced, so feed mills will actually be in business, and people will have to manage the farm. So young people and agricultural experts that are trained will have to get a job. milking, for example, or meat production will happen, so the abattoir chain will work, the transportation will work, and the various segments of the leather and the blood mills and the meat processing, and whether it's frozen, including suya, all those industries will be formalized. This is a value chain of one cow. It is massive, and when we structure it and domesticate it, the economy is huge, and the employment opportunity is huge. But I think this open grazing is even opportunistic and exploitative.
All right, Dr. Magaji. A lot has been said about, who should fund the infrastructure for ranching. Who should fund the infrastructure for ranching? Should governments be responsible for the factors of production for the business of cattle rearing, which is strictly a private business?
This is a very, very important question, because we are at a inflection point. We're at the point where we want to change the model. Something has to step in and demonstrate the role modeling of the new business model. I believe this is a private business. I also believe that when industries are coming to set up in states, they are what called business enablers. So we can even say, what is the ease of doing this business in any state? And what is the benefit of the state to this business? So for me, let me take an example of what we have done in Kano. His Excellency said, all my Fulani friends and brothers, Bandraos, that's what they call them in Fulani, please come here. I have a huge land that I have set aside for your ranch. We can segment you. We can even give you a leased accommodation to stay around your cattle. So we built small chalets, similar to the lifestyle of the Fulani around the area. We built earth dams that the cows can actually drink from. And then the whole area is very lush and grow grass. And there is even an idea of bringing in certain breeds of grass that can be, grown so that they can also feed on them. Even that grass growing is a business in itself. People can have a large farm, 2 hectares, 5 hectares, and grow the grass. And at harvest time, they can be charging fee for cows to go in and feed. Or they can harvest and bale it and they sell it to the cattle ranchers. So there is a lot of business. Government have a role in enabling business, but government have no role in running business. But enabling business depends on one state and the other, and the cordial relationship between the business operators and the state. And that is where this discussion needs to come in. You cannot just come to your state and say, you must give me land. It's not possible. I have to go and lobby you. I have to go and justify what this land will be used for, what value it will add to your state and to the country. And then you see reason and then allocate land. So federal government is helping and state government needs to negotiate with the business operators. This is my position.
All right, Dr. Magaji, let's at this point now talk restructuring. The Southern governors are now unanimous in their submission for restructuring of Nigeria. We've also, had some presidents in the North lend their support to restructuring. For instance, the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is a strong proponent of restructuring. But for you, what does restructuring Nigeria entail?
This is a very important point because we have discussed and talked about restructuring without giving its shape and form. For me, restructuring means asking the very important question. Is Nigeria working? Has it worked? Will it work? These 3 questions are important. The way Nigeria has been structured, has it ever worked? Will it ever work? Or is it working? So let me attempt to answer some of these questions. Nigeria was structured after independence as a parliamentary state. And 1953 to 1960 was the time we took to negotiate our corporate existence as people. It took us 7 good years, going back and forth, London, Lagos, back to our communities, discussing with very credible representation from all nationalities in this country. and we came to a consensus that we agreed to coexist in unity but in diversity. And that model led us to adopt the regional parliamentary system, which gave each region the sense of semi-autonomy, belonging to the federation, and commitment to ownership of citizenship and patriotism. That was the only workable negotiated existence and document that we have agreed on. After the coup of 1966, unfortunately, the country became a centralized government due to the military intervention. The military centralized the country. That was not our consensus. That was not our agreement. And the centralization continued over time with various military, because that is their nature. That's how they rule. That's their command and comply structure. But when civilian regime returned, we negotiated a constitution which is different from what we agreed at independence, which was the federalism, the presidential system of government, which gives a president, two-camera legislation, and also state governments with their own organs. Three arms of government: presidency, legislators, and the judiciary. We have tested all of that too. So now we have two choices. We have two systems that have been operated by Nigeria. And the question is, what worked? And what are we comfortable with? And what can we adjust in these two systems? What can we redesign so that this country will, in modern times, like we are talking about renting, time has come for us to renegotiate the structure of this country and the ownership and how we view this country and how patriotic we can be to the component of the country and to the Niger part of the country as well.
Dr. Magaji, a minute, please. What's your take on devolution of powers and, of course, the call for resource control in the advocacy for restructuring?
I'm sorry, I kind of missed the initial part of the question.
Yes. I said, what's your take on the devolution of powers and, of course, the call for resource control in the advocacy for the restructuring of Nigeria?
I don't know, it keeps cutting off. What, if I understand, asking me what is my position on what part of restructuring of Nigeria?
No, what's your position specifically on resource control and power devolution?
I'm very sorry that every time you come to the real question, the network kind of flipped on me. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. So, devolution of powers.
Yes.
And
okay.
fiscal federalism.
Yes. Okay. This is very important. I had that one.
Yeah.
This is very important. I have discussed some of these concepts that if we are going to adjust these two systems, we have to do it strategically and tactfully. And for me, there are two major discussions on federalism now: fiscal federalism and political federalism. That is the overriding discussion. Every time a Nigerian elite speak about federalism or restructuring, the discussion is around how much resources will come to me and how much political power will I have. But I have also advocated the third arm of this discussion, which is development federalism. In my view, that is a consensus between fiscal and political. Development federalism recognizes that each region of this country has its own God-given potential. And it also recognizes that the required resources to develop that potential have to be agreed upon jointly as a consensus in an equitable and fair manner. And also it requires us as a country to give ourselves some time frame so that we can basically work out a viability mechanism for each region. And when I talk about region, I don't mean the 1960 region. I mean the adopted political, geopolitical regions under Abuja. We now have 6 geopolitical regions. We have come to live with them. We have accepted them. They are not yet in our constitution, but we should adopt them as a development regions and as a political region. And Abuja should now be our central government. How do we do this? I have advocated that each region has God-given potential. We have worked in the South-South, and the South-South is a hub that is literally like Qatar. It has the blessings of oil and gas reserves. And when we put our minds to it and design a development model around that industry, we can turn the South-South into a Qatar that can produce, export, supply petroleum products and its derivative, not only to Nigeria, to West Africa, but also export to the rest of the world. I think that is very important, that South-South becomes a viable regional hub and autonomously government in a manner that is part of Nigeria, but have large chunk of its resources being produced in its land, develop its land, and contribute net positively to the Federation. That is one region. The Southeast is a technologically savvy region, very innovative, very enterprising. We must harness that quality as a nation and as a region. Nnewi is a place I have visited. Aba is a place I have visited. I have many friends in Enugu, in Anambra, from Ozubulu to Ihala to Okija to every part of the eastern part of Nigeria. I have friends and have moved there. I have seen what that region can do when you put resources and a plan to bring manufactured product, industrial machineries, agricultural implement, transportation vehicles from the east. It's a huge savings on Nigeria. It's a huge economic gain for Nigeria, and it's a huge market for us in Africa to trade and earn our living. The East will bring all the know-how, all the ingenuity they have to be an economic powerhouse that the whole world can recognize as a Nigerian region. I would love that to happen. And the Southwest is a dominantly marine economy and manufacturing with a lot of intellectual capability there. That in itself is an economic hub. And I keep saying, let us make, so when you say Southeast, you should talk about, I'm just going back to Southeast, you should think about Taiwan of Africa. And I'm giving examples so that people can relate. When you say Southwest, you should think about Singapore of Africa, a powerhouse that is landlocked with, a very small island that has no oil, but with a huge, huge economic potential in ICT, in marine, in shipping, shipbuilding, ship transportation, and all others. The axis of the Southwest have even better endowment than Singapore. But we need to have the resource, we need to have the plan to make that happen. And I said, if you come up to the north, I've always cited three very distinct countries, which is Vietnam, Thailand, and that is Vietnam, Thailand, and there's this Vietnam, Thailand, and there's a third country. I always view them as our equals, our correlated equals. Yeah? And these are agricultural powerhouse in their regions. Thailand alone concentrate on global dominance of rice, and they have gotten their economy grown because of that. The same thing with Vietnam. Now, if you take the three regions of the north and place them side by side, these countries, and take what is called leveraging crops and produce them, process them, and export them, North will become a net exporter of products, and we have cash flow that we can grow the economy of the North, develop northern Nigeria, and also contribute to the nation. So for me, I think this is very important discussion in the scheme of things in restructuring. Are we restructuring because we hate each other? Or are we restructuring because we want something that works? Are we restructuring because we love each other and we like to be proud that Nigeria is a giant of Africa? It's also a country that every black race will be proud of and is proud of, but now we are lagging behind in many development indexes, not only in the world, but in Africa. So I think the concept of development federalism, coupled with restructuring, fiscal and political federalism, can all come to the table. But how can it happen? I believe also, just like the Ruga discussion started, the various arms of constitutional government have begun the discussion already. Like I said earlier, private citizens have begun to put resources to support the process that can bring people together. The state governments, the governors have started putting their position together. The National Assembly have a committee that is looking at the way this country can proceed. The federal government itself is open, is very much open to allowing discussion to happen. And that is why the alternative of not opening up this discussion is the implosion that can result in agitation. So I think it is important that, and we have major political stakeholders. I've had Atiku place his position very securely. I've had Bola Ahmed Tinubu discuss restructuring very clearly. And so political stakeholders and PDP has already adopted it as an agenda. So it means we're almost there. What we must not do is to rush it because of existential threats, the security situation we are facing now. I want to say to Nigerians that...
But Dr. Muaza, is that not a more reason?
Look beyond it to have a functional country. Thank you, sorry.
Yes. You're talking about not rushing it. I mean, Nigeria seems to be in emergency ward now, and what is expected is urgent surgery. I mean, isn't it the right time to ensure that some of these proposals, these demands are made constitutional using the institutions of state that already exist?
I call it civil strife. I mean, honestly, people are not yet on the street like we've seen in NSAS, but people are really, really agitated. And in fact, this type of agitation is more dangerous than the one on the street, because it is cooking in our bedrooms, it's cooking in our dining tables, it's cooking in our church and mosque and in our community meetings. When it erupts, it will be spontaneous, and we don't want that. So we want to be proactive and anticipate that this country can have a workable solution, because we have sensed and we have agreed that the 1914 amalgamation has expired, the 1960 constitution has been abrogated, and the 1979 constitution is not working well. Meaning we all have to discuss which is the next frame of structure that this country will work with. This time is the time for dousing tension. Making that move alone will take a lot of tension off the polity, because people will see the government and the leaders and the stakeholders are responding. And I pray, my prayer is that people can be objective enough to grow above their personal position, personal needs, and personal benefits, which is temporary, because no matter how much wealthy you are, when this country starts shaking, your wealth means nothing. And I will say the country needs to have the sense of direction and ownership.
All right, Dr. Magaji, even though we've had a few persons from the North support the call for restructuring, I'm wondering why we are yet to reach a national consensus on this issue, and why this structural adjustment is not happening yet. Do you think there are some regions in the country who might be disadvantaged in a restructured Nigeria? And how do you think we can allay the fears of this region in the process of restructuring Nigeria?
This is important. The perception that one region is advantaged now over the other is what is creating this impact. And the perception that one region will suffer when you restructure is also what is creating the reactions. That is why the development federalism is a very good option, because it outlines a roadmap for prosperity for all the regions. What remains is you are on your own. If you go and mismanage what the resource given and allocated to you for development of a region in a close partnership with the central government, and you did not succeed in bringing your people out of poverty and creating development, you will not blame anybody, because at that point we've created boundaries of development. Now, the two things I will say here is important. For us in the North, I want to say to my people, it could take maybe 2 years or 5 years of realignment of our priorities. But we are so endowed with natural potentials that if we put our heads together, we will bring capacity and wealth that this country will benefit from. We have done that before in the First Republic. Northern Nigeria has been a net contributor to the center, and we can go back to it again. All we need to do is just let us change our approach to how this power is being managed. We've been in power for many, many decades, and we have not been empowered as a people. All the development indexes are showing that we are not doing very well. So we should ask ourselves the very truth. Is it working for us as well? While others are perceiving that we are basically loading it on them, we are actually at the receiving end of this same structure, meaning it's not working for anybody. And I would like us to just sit down. There is a big 1956 or 1953 to 56 was when Sardauna produced a Northern Nigerian development blueprint. If I read that blueprint to date, I still see potentials that are waiting to be developed and tapped. We can do this together, but we have to do this with mutual respect. One of the things that direct tension in this discussion of restructuring is there is antagonism, there is vile and hate in the polity. And all we need to do is to love ourselves and embrace the idea of a big democratic Nigeria that is the pride of black race in the world. And we can make this happen. I believe it is doable, but because of all the initiatives going on, because of the nature of our constitution, no any arm of this government or the state or the federation can actually make this happen except the president. The executive power resides in the presidency. So what I am happy about is the president is now listening quietly, is watching. Once the consensus is built across all the stakeholders, I can assure you this matter will go to National Council of State, which will bring all the former head of states together, all the governors together, and then the other arms of government will be invited. And the nature and the way the discussion can take place peacefully, respectfully, will now come to happen. I am very sure. I have a theory that every 100 years, something will happen. After 1914, the next one is 2024. So we use 10 years. 2014 is 100 years, and we use 10 years to put a new structure together. But I also want to say something before I leave. The resources I've been talking about, because people will say, look, you're talking about putting resources together to develop regions. Today's world have a financial engineering scheme that leverage on the potentials of what God has given you. I have been an oil and gas person most of my life. I know there are developed, undeveloped, and virgin fields in the Delta. And that is where I need to appeal to our brothers in the South and in the South generally, that these assets are lying there. And if we don't leverage on them today, they will go the way the coal has gone, because hydrocarbon economy is becoming a challenge to the environment. This is the time for us to leverage on the resources underground by proper evaluation of the value and putting it somewhere and pool resources and develop our nation quickly so that we can transform. Saudi Arabia is doing that very quickly, and other oil producing states are doing that.
All right, I want to say thank you so much to you, Dr. Muaza Magaji, former Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure in Kano State and the Chieftain of the All Progressives Congress. Thank you so much for a very progressive thoughts on this conversation.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Kakaaki, the African Voice continues as we'll continue to get reactions, views, and perspectives on the state of the nation. Restructuring, ban on open grazing, and other sundry issues. We'll be joined shortly by a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, Dr. Katch, Ononuju. That conversation comes up in a moment. To stay.
Ovaltine, 3-in-1. It has great taste.
Big day ahead.
Yummy, yummy, full of nourishment and vitality. Tea bodies and shop like soya. Ovaltine, 3-in-1. Ovaltine, 3-in-1.
Oh, yo, young mama.
New Ovaltine 3-in-1. Smart choice for smart kids.
Running a restaurant isn't just about the food. It's a symphony between the food, the service, and the ambiance. It's about making sure that the wheels keep turning for every customer to have an unforgettable experience every time. Let MasterCard take you on an adventurous journey into the passion-filled world of Amina.
tried cycling and I totally fell in love with it. And we really do not have those cycling specific cafes, restaurants here in Nigeria, but we have loads of those abroad. We opened our doors in January and unfortunately had to shut it due to the pandemic. When we got ready to reopen, we opened just at the same time as the MasterCard Restaurant Week, so it was a brilliant idea. It was a perfect timing. Here we are, Pit Stop Lagos, still standing and loving every moment. So we're quite grateful.
Heartburn and indigestion? Try Gestede. My recommendation for the past 26 years. Gestede. Reliable remedy for heartburn, indigestion, flatulence, and acidity.
Thank you very much for still being there with us. Joining us at this time, we told you earlier, is Dr. Katch Ononuju, Chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, and of course, very concerned with national issues. And we're good to have you here. You've been in the Southeast for quite a while. You're back in Abuja. It's been very tumultuous for the past couple of months in the Southeast. What are the feelings you're getting, you got while you were there, and what's the situation at the moment in your assessment?
Well, I think the federal plans were carried through. The strategy was simply to force a cascade of violence across the East and intentions to blame the Igbo youths. But thank God that the Igbo elders and the youths have backdoor channels of communication, and the elders know that the youths do not have the capability or even the sophistry to instruct stand-downs for the police, because that was just what we saw. When it started, we kept quiet. So the minute we came to Weri, and I was that dance of 3 hours, 20 minutes, and we noticed two key things. There was stand down maintained by both the police and the army and the DSS for all the period of that operation. So we now understood. So our fear was some of the boys they removed from Owerri prison, they will now use, a fifth columnist, apart from the unknown gunmen, which for me is a replication of the old Nadeko, games of false flag operations. But I think so far the East has come together. They have been forced now, due to the foreign aggression, to actually come together. And as you saw, the Asaba declaration was a culmination of the belief by all leaders that this quality of violence across the country can only be instrumented by the organizations from the very, very top. Only somebody above can instruct a stand down. Go speak privately to any security person and will tell you that. So once we saw that, that was just a trick, because if you ask me, I will tell you that the IPOB is nothing but just a propaganda organization. They don't have that capability, then they don't have the sophistry to instruct the army and the police to stand down. It doesn't work that way.
So if it's not IPOB, it's not, of course, the youths in the
South. It is the government.
Then is the government.
Yes.
So
what government are we talking about?
Let me help you. What you're seeing is a replay of the old Nadeko style false flag operations. Okay? And now you could just see in the northeast is Boko Haram. In the north central, it is herdsmen. In the northwest, it is called bandits. In the south, in the old eastern region, it is now unknown gunmen. And when you take a full picture of all that, you will see there is only one table responsible for the instrumentation of that total violence. It is the Buhari administration. There is nothing about that.
How is the Buhari administration doing it, and to what end?
Well, I think the strategy, they probably had intelligence that from the way Buhari has institutionalized nepotism, that all these things which he has created as a reaction to his employment of nepotism, separatist organization, could actually threaten the country's stability. And probably the way to stem anybody going anywhere is to station an army of occupation in the old eastern region. And to do that, you need to instrument this thing to just bring in. Look at it. You have Boko Haram, you have the bandits, you have the Fulani herdsmen inflaming the entire north. And it is the east where you want to come and make what for?
How come the disturbances in the southeast worsened after the military raid, in Olu communities? And did you also hear the response of the IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu after one of his militia, gang leaders, was killed.
Yes, from information we had, the boy was seized by the authorities, killed at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and then by 8:30 they then did that strike in Governor Zodema's house. After they had also killed 2 people at Doguta Junction, killed some other people at Omoko, straight on that road, burnt on that same day the Asaba police station. For us, the depth of the sophistry is simply why we knew this is something similar.
But did you hear or did you read Nnamdi Kanu's position or reaction
Nnamdi Kanu's propaganda
to the killing?
don't move me. Let me help you. Nnamdi Kanu's propaganda, they don't move me, because what I do, I have back channels. I do investigate. Actually, from that period, I was in Olo. The minute those boys were released from Owerri, I knew some of them will later be held and be used to say either you go back to prison or you help us to implement 5th columnist actions, and we see it. So, apart from going to the bush to harass headsmen who seize funds, the boys have no capability for all this, incredible instrumentation you see over a country. So for me, I knew this, and I've been on this very long time. And when I went to the north, the reason I went to the east is I got a whiff of it from the United Kingdom, that the United Kingdom government was going to make a very important decision in regards to the Nigerian problem. So instantly I knew the government will, in line with the advice I got from the UK.
Dr. Katch, I'm not sure you provided enough or sufficient explanation as to why you feel that the Buhari administration would be responsible for the attacks on police formations and personnel.
I don't feel.
Which it
I don't feel.
to deal with insecurity across the country.
I don't feel. I know. When I see these things, remember my positions on television, on this studio, when I went to the northwest, I went to Kankara, I went to Kwatarakwashi, I went to as far as Alawa, took bikes into Dogongona. I know what I saw. When I went to Dansadao, and then from Dansadao, took bike into Malele, I know what I saw. So when I kept following that, I came on television and I shared it with Nigerians. I said, this is what I saw. And these people I saw don't speak Hausa, they don't speak English, they speak Bambara. Now, it took time for the country to understand that everything I was saying is true. So when it now came also in the east, I told myself, I have to go there. And when I went, I saw this thing. So for me, I'm not surprised that the cascade of violence across the country is being done because the federal government has not done enough to stop it.
But Dr. Katch, I mean, the logic would be, wouldn't the federal government be indicting itself? I mean, it's getting bashing all over the place, within the country, outside the country.
You will ask yourself if they care.
Of not managing the security situation in the country. I mean, it's deteriorating every day.
Good.
The president is begging for foreign assistance. So why would a president also indulge or allow, whether deliberately or, whichever way, such to drag into the southeast of the country, which is relatively peaceful?
Well, I could also tell you from my investigations, I found out that even if we give them the whole of Nigeria, and we don't give them areas, wetlands, with water and grain, they wouldn't take. That's why they are fixated on Taraba, on Benue, on Plateau. So the downstairs also has that kind of vegetation. And then, because Buhari has not allowed for a prosecution of these people, that's why the security services stay hands. Not that we don't have the capability within security services. We do.
Dr. Katch, how then do you explain the fact that the number of arrests we've seen mainly in the south is has been people associated with the ESN of the IPOB?
Oh, it's very easy to arrest prisoners and then put flags near them. Did you see that the picture posted for that boy Ikosi? Amongst them was a knife that you had exhibit number marked on it. I was very detailed in checking all those things. And I said, you mean you just cut them now in the bush and you have a knife with exhibit number on it? These are the things you look at. I train my eyes. And once I went to the east and stayed, it happened in Owerri, it stayed for 3 hours, 12 minutes. I was in Owerri actually. And nothing happened. I laughed. So later on,
you're talking about the siege on the
police headquarters, which is beside the
correctional center.
The correctional center and the government house. and the Rockview Hotel. Okay? So most of us could see what was going on. So I'm not surprised if you catch boys and then they sing Igbo songs. The state has everything. Nadeko, I was in Ikeja when bombs exploded. Marwa thought he was being killed. On private investigation, he found a general from Abuja was in charge of that. What did Marwa do? He purchased a B5 armored G-Wagon 500. I knew I was in Lagos. So I'm not surprised about this false flag activities. What we are begging the federal government is please help. Stop the killings in Kaduna. Look at how bad Kaduna is right now. My son can't go to his university. Why? The authorities say, look, Greenfield is very close to Veritas, so let's not do this. And that's what we are.
All right, Dr. Katch, let's take up other issues and stay in focus. The state of the nation. Let's begin with the recent meeting in Asaba by the Southern governors, who, of course, came up with a position on banning open grazing of cattle in that part of the country. Let's get your reaction.
Well, it is a culmination of the governors listening to the voices of people like me. That what you're seeing, the insecurity, is being instrumented from tables in Abuja. So don't forget where this started. When I kept talking about these foreigners who are coming in, and I warned on television, for us to solve this problem about land, go and talk to the leaders of the sub-region so that if they agree, because it's the one thing to negotiate a peace agreement like was done in 2015, the most difficult part of it is having that peace agreement implemented. Now, the leaders here thought the Fulani should all over come here. And what do we have? We have pressure. Yeah, Patani can do his own and instrument them into databases. But what about land? See where the problem is? Land. All this is about land. When Gumi and Co went to Obasanjo, they were asking for land. So when the governors understood that it is a quest for land that is bringing all this problem, they said, please, let's not have them. And Ganduje is honest. Ganduje said, look, stop the foreign herdsmen entering Nigeria with guns. I agree. Where they are fighting in Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, it might be dangerous. So they can take guns to come here. But if they come to Nigeria, take the guns off them. Why would you disarm everybody in the country and only them will hold guns?
Was the decision about, say, the quest for land or the insecurity associated?
The quest for land is at the heart of the current Fulani aggression against all ethnicities across Nigeria. In Adabawa, they are fighting against the Bachama. In Benue, the TV, the Idoma, the Igede and Agatu are not sleeping politely. In Plateau, 58 billion villages are sacked in Riom, just south of Barkinladi. The Yorubas formed Amotekun because of this problem. And now, the East formed Ibubaga because of this same problem. Now, it's not stopping because President Buhari is not sincere. It is his words to the service chiefs that force them to stay hands. Service chiefs normally should swear their oath to the Constitution. But in Nigeria, their oath seems to have been sworn to President Buhari. And that's why you've seen the Southern governors had to come together to make that declaration. So that, for me, is a first step. They don't need to consult anybody. Why? The states that declare Sharia didn't consult Southerners that were in the hotel business or where they came from. So I don't think any governor should consult the aggressor if he seeks intentions to protect his people. That's not done. I believe, Governor Ganduje, the idea of allowing foreign Fulanis come into Nigeria anyhow will, of course, bring this problem. Land. And that was why I campaigned when Buhari was asking for grazing land. I said, no, this is not a agricultural initiative. It is land to settle these people from Central African Republic, from Mali, from Cote d'Ivoire. I have been to Mali. I've been to all these places, and I understand this issue. I've been selling it, begging him to please not do this. Now look at it. They've come in. The problem now, where do you settle them? So if they now run to Oyo Games Reserve to want to settle by force, who told you nobody owns that land? People own the land, of course. And you go to Gembu, of course the Kaka and the Pansa will not be allowed, will not let you take their land. And what did that happen? Those people traveled when they were driven from Gembu to crossover. That's where they are right now. So most of these people you see don't speak Nigerian languages. That's why I saw you talking to the professor who said my governor should have gotten permission from him to make legislation to protect us. These are not Nigerian Fulanis. Nigerian Fulanis are in peace wherever they are. They are not the ones. I grew here as a child. Nigerian Fulanis don't kill Hausas. This is the first time I see people kill Hausas in Katsina, Zamfara, and Sokoto, forcing the Hausas to form Yansakai their own. And that was what made me to come and start crying. Why? This is the people I grew with. Why will I go back and I say, Umar, Yakukai, and he will tell Ada Kashehu, Waike Kashehu, we Poladi. Sabo de Mega Palata in a Kasha Hausawa. I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before. That's why these are very, very unprecedented times.
Dr. Katch, some governors may have made, that positions clear, and we understand that the state legislatures are making moves to create a legislative backing for it. But at the same time, does that solve the problem? Because it appears we already have a situation where the ants are already everywhere. In Benue State, for instance, an anti-open grazing law was signed by the state government, but 3 years after, killings are still very prevalent in Benue State. Does that solve the problem, what the southern governors are doing?
It does solve a problem. It's a beginning. You have an active federal government behavior to undermine the rule of law. When the states in the Northwest implemented Sharia, nobody went there to undermine their law. When they set up Hizbah, nobody went there to undermine it. Obasanjo allowed it to stay. Why should President Buhari actively undermine the need of these people to self-protect themselves?
How is he actually doing that?
Because it is him who instructs the police and army to undermine the governors and those laws. If not, the laws will stay. The laws will stay. The laws made and passed by State House Assembly should be allowed to stay. Autumn left APC, came to PDP because, yes, you can't be fighting to extricate yourself from crocodile bite, whereas you're still in the swamp. He left the swamp, and they still are fighting him. For me, Autumn should be joining the Southern governors in subsequent meetings.
Can it really work? I mean, even when the law has been passed, when you don't have the instrument of force to implement the law?
See, the important thing,
because I think that's what's missing in the case of
it's an emotional thing. Now that you've seen that the president, the federal government actively promotes this insecurity, you don't have to wait for him to send those who will protect you. You now set purpose towards protecting yourself, which is what I did. Everybody is resorting to self-help. Why? In every family, if the father does not set purpose towards protecting his wife from the misbehavior of his brother, you will notice that the children will quickly form a self-help group to protect their wife, their mother, and the family.
Now that open grazing has been banned in the southern part of the country, what's the alternative? Because people still have to consume meat.
Well, we consume meat. I consume goat meat. I consume fish. I consume a lot of sources of protein. So, and since this cattle business is like poultry business, is like piggery, it's like snail husbandry, those who involved in this business should set purpose. Now that Governor Ganduje has said, I am Fulani, I want to help. Let us see if true they're talking about grazing. Don't forget, up to 85% to 90% of the beef we consume are not beef from Nigeria. They're imported. So since they come in, Ganduje is right. He says, as they come in, stop them from holding guns. Because if they hold the guns and then they go in to try to use those guns in the bush, because once you're with gun, it's like an aphrodisiac. It's like a woman passing your face.
So are you advocating ranching?
Ranching is a business decision. If you want to do poultry business and you buy a lot, you can't be able to put them in one place.
Should southern states offer their land for ranching?
I think already the governor of Bayelsa is providing such things for ranching. And what he's providing is, if you come there, you register yourself, and if you register yourself, you will pay. So I don't see any problem about that. For me, ranching is the best thing. Let me tell you one thing. We love Nigeria. I keep telling people the reason I like Nigeria is because it provides me a bigger field. Why should I take a shot of brandy when I can own the entire carton.
All right, let's move here quickly. Another outcome of that Sabah meeting by the Southern governors was the call for restructuring. You know, at a point, the president did say that he does not understand what those who are calling for restructuring really mean by that political concept.
Don't forget that during their debate, during the campaigns, during the manifesto, restructuring was the number two thing in the APC's booklet. So it's not called. There are people who feel advantaged at the way the soldiers have written the decrees. But we are saying soldiers have gone. That vehicle we're moving with, it cannot serve us anymore. Let us sit down and redo it. That's why we're begging President Buhari, please be a Nigerian president for once and let us have peace. Listen, nobody wants problem. All of us want something good. That's why I am on the same page with Governor Ganduje. He was good when he said, and there are a lot of people who say this. So why do we have to undermine our country? It's not proper now. If anybody commits offense, arrest him. The other day I was listening to a U.S. public hearing and they were saying that none of those people who have done this thing have been arrested. What does that mean? Well, we know in country, already outsiders also know it. Let us work to save our country. Please, Nigeria can still be salvaged.